Jazzcast Pros.
If you have something that you've been wanting to start, wanting to do, but you've just been waiting for the perfect moment, I have a juicy secret for you. The perfect moment's never coming. Maybe you want to punch me through your phone, listening, whatever you're using to listen to this, but there is no perfect moment. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about turning your waiting room into a classroom and how you just need to go out and start doing today, because in the waiting, you are missing a lot of crucial learning moments that will be really impactful in your journey in the long run. Welcome to High Vibe Table Talks, the podcast to help you, the cautiously ambitious woman, remove mental barriers and take action now so that you can achieve your high vibe desires. I'm Rashawn, your high vibe curator, cheerleader, and accountability partner. As a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur who recently quit my job to follow my dreams, I understand why you may be hesitant to throw caution to the wind and take that leap. Turning your waiting room into a classroom. This is a concept that I heard from a YouTube channel that I watch a lot of. It's called Roots and Refuge. And I actually first started watching her content when we moved into this house, because I went from having a small vegetable garden, it was like 4 feet by 4 feet maybe, to a larger garden. It's about 20 feet by 40 feet. And if you're like, okay, I am not here for the gardening content, like that's not why I listen to you, I promise I'm going to bring this back around to business and entrepreneurship. But I want to start with something that is how I first learned about it. And then, I think there are so many lessons that we learn in gardening that apply to our life and to business. I'm actually currently in the process of writing something bookish, maybe, around the life of an entrepreneur, but through the eyes of a gardener, because I just think there are so many similarities. And this is one. So the idea of turning your waiting room into a classroom is really fascinating, because there are a lot of things, a lot of entrepreneurs are dreamers and hopers, and we're always thinking about these things that we want and these one days, like one day I will, break $1 million. One day I'm going to have a full roster. One day I'm going to charge $5,000 for my one day of my service. All these things that we hope to do eventually. And the thought process that I think a lot of us have is, I will start acting differently when I have those things. And the idea of turning your waiting room into a classroom is about what lessons can you learn today that will provide for you when that is your reality. So, for instance, if I never gardened before moving to this house and then all of a sudden had, and 20 feet by 40 feet garden isn't huge, but if I just was like, okay, now I'm going to be this amazing gardener, but I never practiced, I never learned, I never taught myself some of the smaller lessons I could on a smaller scale. So then once you have like a bigger scale vision and you're living that reality, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I need to learn so many things. So for example, in my smaller garden, I stuck everything way too close together, because when you first get the plants, they're like this big and you're like, oh, they don't need to be a foot apart. And all of a sudden you have a cucumber plant that is like huge and they're crowding each other and suffocating each other and like not getting enough water or nutrients because they're so close together. You're like, that's why. And so I learned that on a smaller scale. So then when I did have a larger scale garden, I knew those things and I wasn't losing like all of these plants. I lost a couple on a smaller scale. And then when I had a bigger plot, I could take those lessons and apply those on a bigger scale. And so I've been thinking about, part of why I wanted to do this podcast episode was because I, in full transparency, am selling my sales course, Sales Prospecting Simplified, and I love the course so much. I think it's going to be really impactful. I think it's powerful. I think it is something that a lot of women entrepreneurs really struggle with and would love to find community and support around. My imposter syndrome is hitting me very hard with this selling this course because I'm like touting myself as a sales expert. I'm not a sales expert, but I think I have experience in sales and I can use this course to help you sell, but then I'm having my own internal struggle with selling it. I have sold the course. People are buying it. There is interest in it. And just in my own head, my imposter syndrome is popping up really bad. But as I am going through the process of prospecting and selling my course, it's solidifying the things that I am talking about. And it's like I'm walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Like I know these things can work because I'm doing them and seeing results with them. So in my mind, when I started out creating this course, the idea is that it is a more passive income. It is less of a demand on my time. I loved selling and doing the masterminds. They were such a great part of how I started this business and I loved running it. And I wanted to create something where I can build it once. Obviously, I'm going to tweak it in the future, but I can build it once and continue to sell it without it being a huge drain on my time. So the goal is like, if I can build this and I can start selling it and people start buying it and I have, X number of people buy it every month, that provides like relatively steady income. And once I get the sales funnel flowing, again, it's a lot less of an effort from me to see income. So that's kind of the like big dream. Build it once and I create some ads for it. It starts getting out there, start getting testimonials, word of mouth, all the things that happen as you build your sales funnel. And then before you, not before you know it, but at some point, if you're successful, then it's a lot more passive. And so it's just kind of like, oh, this money is coming in and I can take breaks and I can take vacations and I'm not actively going out and selling this as frequently as I am like right now or as I was with the masterminds. So that's kind of the waiting room that I'm in right now as far as I am dreaming of the day when that is a reality. The idea is that, okay, so right now I'm in the waiting room and how can I turn this into a classroom? And I think the process of selling this course is going to make me a better teacher of the course. So it's all part of the process. And that is the idea of turn your waiting room into a classroom. If you live in an apartment, but you dream of one day, having a bunch of property with a bunch of vegetable gardens and animals, how can you go and like volunteer at someone else's farm so that you start to learn the ins and outs of what their day to day looks like? How can you start a small patio garden? There's community gardens. There's one near us, you rent it for like $50 for the season and you have space that you can then start to go use. And you start to pick up a lot of these lessons that you can then apply in the future. A lot of what I have learned about sales is going out and doing it. It's not about being the best from the beginning. It's about learning before you arrive. It's like, okay, once I have more clients, then I'll take this more seriously. Once I go full time, that's when I'll invest in my business. And it's this idea of, when I'm more successful, then I'll do that. But you have to show up as that person today to eventually get there. I'll learn about overcoming objections once I start to have more sales conversations. Well, then you start having more sales conversations and you're having to overcome objections, but you've never practiced them in a safe space. And so you may fumble more than you anticipate. So it's kind of this idea of like, whatever your goal is, wherever you want to be, how can you show up as that person today? How can you open up more bank accounts because you want to follow the profit first model? And so you're going to the bank and saying, yes, I'm going to see more money in here and I need to make sure I'm putting money away for taxes versus all of a sudden you get like a big contract and you're like, okay, well, I don't have my LLC right and I don't know what bank I'm going to use and I don't have these things in place. And one of the really beautiful memories actually this brought up for me is when I was doing the mastermind. There was one of my clients who decided, she was like, this is the year that I'm going to do things as if I'm going to be successful. In our brains, a lot of times we're like, well, what if the worst happens? What if terrible things happen? What if nobody buys? And we start to spin out on like all the ways things that can go wrong. And she just started showing up as if things were going to go right. And it was just so beautiful to see her show up as that person, light up rooms because she was bringing that energy, have things be successful for her. And just it was this really amazing example of the mindset shift that can really have an impact on what you're doing day to day. And actually, that's really funny because I picked this mug out. You can't see this if you're listening to it, but I picked this mug out today, and it's proceed as if success is inevitable. That's just kind of the energy that I want to bring to this. That's the energy kind of this episode, the energy that Amelia brought during that mastermind. And so it's really about showing up as if you're going to be successful, showing up as if things are going to go right, showing up even though you're in that apartment. Your property is out there and everything will fall into place for you to be there. And you're going to have all these lessons that you can then go out and be super successful with them. Once you get into that space, are you still going to fumble things? Are there still going to be mistakes that will be made? Of course, absolutely. There's a learning curve for everything. But I think that the idea is that you can lessen the learning curve when you start learning before you have actually arrived. And so the tangible takeaway that I want you to have from this is start seeing your success as a daily habit. I talk a lot on this about sales and showing up to sales every day, even in small ways. So the past couple episodes I've talked about like gamifying your prospecting process. And so someone who is successful in sales is having sales conversations daily. And so using 5 minutes of your time to have sales conversations so that you're practiced at putting yourself out there, you're practiced at hearing responses, you're practiced at writing offers, your follow-up process, what feels good, what doesn't. And so when you are having slow seasons, use that time to sharpen your skills. So here are the tangible, actionable steps that I want you to take away from this episode. So thinking about your future goal, by the end of 2026, I would like to be where? What would you like to be doing? What would be ideal for you? Like one of those, it's a little cheesy, but like writing out a day in your life that you would love to be living by that time. Okay, so I would love to have sales prospecting simplified, be a passive income for me that is a great source of income for me and my family, and I am able to take vacations and money is much less stressful because it is flowing in abundantly, and I am loving showing up to the prospecting power hours, but that's really one of the only times that my energy is needed throughout the week for the course. And then I also get to record this podcast and have wonderful sponsors. Okay, so these are all the things that I want to be happening in my day-to-day. And so step 2 is what skills, habits, knowledge will that person have? What does their morning routine look like? What do they know instinctively? What have they really honed their craft in on? What knowledge, what are they so knowledgeable about that they could talk forever about? And then kind of look at like where you are right now. And so if there are things that you need to learn, habits you need to have, I think we set ourselves up for failure often because we're like, the distance between who I am right now and who that person is so massive. And so 2 things happen. We either say, I'll do that when I get there. Like once I start signing a bunch of clients that I'm going to like work out daily, well, what can you do today to get a little bit closer? Again, there's two things that happen. Either we push it off and say, I'll do that when, I'll be happy when, I'll be satisfied when, and don't take action today. Or on the flip side of it, we say, okay, to be that person, I'm doing all of these things. And so starting tomorrow, I'm going to do all of these things. And it's, my tagline is big dreams and small steps will transform your life. And so it's about the small steps. And so what are a couple small steps that you can take today to start showing up as that person? And so if they are really skilled at overcoming objections, how can you start to just learn a little bit about overcoming objections? How can you, start having conversations with people who are successful in sales? What podcast can you listen to where they talk about overcoming objections? If they have like a really good lunch day exercise routine, how can you start building time into your schedule so that 12:30 to 1:15 is cut off every day so that you do move your body? If they have passive income that is free flowing, what systems do you have set up so that when the money comes in, it goes to the right place? Do you have the right bank account set up? Do you know what platform you're going to use? And again, you're not going to figure out all of these like overnight. So how can you take small steps? How can you figure out one of those things over the next week or so that you're closer to that human being? It's not like we're Cinderella and all of a sudden at midnight we become this super successful person or someone who knows all of those things. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes routine and rituals. And so that is my message for you today is how can you start becoming that person today? How can you turn the waiting room that you're currently in into the classroom that gets you to where you want to be? I hope this was helpful. If getting better at sales is something that you see future you doing, join my Sales Prospecting Simplified course. Jump into one of the Prospecting Power Hours. If you want to try one for free, you can join us because that is really where I think a lot of the magic is. If you want to try co-working because maybe your time struggle is not around sales, it's about something else, join the virtual co-working that I run every Wednesday from noon to 2 EST. Go to highvibecowork.com/virtual and you can sign up for that. You can go to highvibecowork.com/SPS as in Sales Prospecting Simplified to learn more about the course and turn your waiting room into a classroom. Until next time, remember that big dreams and small steps will transform your life.